Corpus Christians, good day. Last year in April, our founding father, Dr. Alfonso del Fierro, was called home by our Lord. We wept, yet we celebrated the blessing that Sir was to the Corpus Christi School community and to our city. This year in August, our beloved Maria Corazon, who started Corpus Christi School as a one-room kindergarten school, joined her husband. In life, Ma'am Cor did not fear death. She once said with a radiant smile, "Heaven must be a nice place. I look forward to going home." Ma'am Cor is now happily home with Sir and with our Lord. And so, as we say our final goodbye this morning, let us be joyful. Let us honor Corazon's time on earth and the story of her life. A love story. The love story began with Cora's birth in Pasay City, Manila on June 22, 1941 to Ignacio and Maria Salcedo. According to Merly Adaza, Dr. Del Fierro's sister, it is easy to understand why Cora was the exemplary person we all knew her to be. It was only logical, for she was reared by exemplary parents. The bond between parents and children was tight. Cora only had good words for her father, who was a chemist and college chemistry professor, and her mother, a talented and devoted housewife. She emulated their good traits and their immense love for people. Cora was blessed with a childhood devoid of ugly, traumatizing episodes. She was certainly not perfect, but she did not exhibit the perplexing stubbornness and rebelliousness that typically accompany adolescence. Her two older brothers, Popoy and Tony, were always there to protect her, and her younger brother Sandy and younger sister Mai were always a source of fun and laughter. Pictures of Cora as a child development student in the University of the Philippines College of Home Economics and Family Life evince her delicate beauty. She had an enviable asset when the miniskirt was in vogue in the 1960s. She had the legs to show off, but was quite modest about them. Cora's family upbringing was God-centered, but a deepening of faith took place in UP under an influential campus chaplain, Father John Delaney S.J. As a member of Father Delaney's UP Social Catholic Action Group, Cora's love for God became more personal and quote-unquote inspiring. Around this time, crushes spoken and giggles were the inspiration of Cora's peers. Cora intimidated that she could not relate to being boy crazy. She did admire certain men, but got turned off by naughty flirtations. While her schoolmates enjoyed stringing what we now call MUs for fun, Cora gave her yes to one suitor with a serious intention. The brief relationship, however, ended when God called the boyfriend to the priestly vocation. A friend asked, "Did your heart break? Did you cry for a month?" Cora answered matter-of-factly, "No, he belonged to God." The relationship was probably more of a platonic friendship than a real romance. That kind of love came after Cora finished her Master of Science in Early Childhood Education from Wheelock College in Boston, Massachusetts, USA. When she returned to the Philippines, Cora was invited by Father Cebrero S.J. to come to Cagayan de Oro to teach in Xavier University Grade School. The wife of the late Senator Aquilino Pimentel, Lourdes Sower Bing, was Cora's colleague. Bing played matchmaker by inviting Cora to dinner in her home. Also invited was a crush ng bayan by the name of Alfonso June Del Fierro. To Bing's delight, June and Cora clicked immediately. They were a perfect match. The complementary combination of opposites. June was tall, dark and handsome in a rough, hewn way. Cora was petite, porcelain fair and beautiful in a Marian way. Cora loved to travel and see the world. June traveled only when absolutely necessary. Both had the mark of leadership. June's leadership style, though, was end-oriented, while Cora's was process-oriented. Even as academicians, they stood at opposite ends. Cora's field was early childhood education, June's sociology with an expertise in demography. Both were persons of few words. June spoke in a direct, no-nonsense language. Cora was known for her wit and diplomacy. The characters of our love story had the right beats and rhythm to make beautiful music. And so, they tied the knot on June 2, 1970 in Kentucky, USA, where June was taking doctoral studies. Cora, who had already earned an MA, worked as a kindergarten teacher. In America at that time, there were many new ways of teaching. Cora's experience as a teacher was sort of a refresher course which she later applied in the creation of her own kinder school. Merle laughs every time she relates, when June and Cora returned to the Philippines, hala, naan na si Marla, tulo na sila. And then Mark made 4. Marla jokingly calls her younger brother a mama's boy. Well, Mark could very well counter, Ate Marla is a papa's girl. The fact is, the siblings were very close to their parents and are close to each other. A third child was conceived, and the name of the sister was Little Schoolhouse. She was wrongly named though, for she did not remain little. She grew into Corpus Christi School. Around the time the school was expanding, wedding bells rang for Marla, then Mark. Grandchildren started coming. The Del Fierro couple had their hands full as they savored the joys of grandparenthood, while at the same time sailing through many changing weathers such as the opening of Corpus Christi School campus in Pueblo de Oro, the adoption of the K-12 curriculum, and the devastation wrought by Typhoon Sandong. June and Cora needed each other more than ever during this very stressful period. It would be a lie to say that June and Cora never quarreled or that they never had marital problems. Raising a family was challenging enough, how much more running a fast-growing school at the same time? It is notable, though, that there were no banging of doors or flying pots and pans. However, Cora got irritated with her husband's reaction of never raising his voice whenever she began to cry. June would whisper in an exaggeratingly cool, well-modulated radio voice, "Why are you crying? I am not shouting. My voice is calm, isn't it?" It's so cute coming from Sir, right? The misunderstandings, arguments, and problems always got resolved. The beautiful music of love always saw June and Cora through the most difficult times. Moreover, amazingly, as the couple's concerns and work schedules piled up, their love for one another expanded outside the home and the Corpus Christi School community. Somebody once joked that June and Cora had yet another 4th child. Couples for Christ, Gawad Kalinga. Oh, how they loved CFC with an intensity and joy that made Marla once remark, "My parents are crazy about CFC." As top leaders, June and Cora's contributions to this organization were incalculable. To name just one of many successful projects, the St. Jose Maria Escriva village of Gawad Kalinga has benefited many homeless families and has raised the quality of their lives. Lest you begin to think that the June and Cora partnership was the tandem of conjoined twins. Let me point out that June and Cora developed not just as a couple, but also as individuals. Let us for now focus on Cora. Cora had an out-of-the-ordinary quality about her that was hard to spell. A Paasco accreditor called it the X Factor. I have never met a principal like her before, the accreditor said, adding, Ma'am Cora exudes royalty and sanctity, but she is completely down to earth. Indeed, though Cora had something about her that commanded respect, as we say in our dialect, mataha ta sa iya, teachers, parents, friends, and souls in darkness sought her for advice and unburdening. Only she could calm the storms in our lives. Cora alone made us feel loved at times when we were miserable, unloved, and unlovable. Many times in our terrible moments, Cora doubled her love for us. We do not have enough time to relate the myriad tales of her extra mile for a neighbor in need or in darkness. But there is hardly anyone who has been in contact with Cora who has not been transformed by her love. To give one example of how a brief interaction with Cora could make a big difference, Cora once rode a taxi driven by a driver who knew who she was. They chatted. At the end of the trip, the driver said, Ma'am, salamat. Imo kong gipabati nga tao ko. Dili pareho sa uban. Cora asked, Huh? Nganong man di ay ang ubang pasahero? The driver answered, Ilang pagtratar, murag di ko tao. When Cora related this to a friend, there were tears in her eyes. All the encounters with Cora sourced from the loftiest segment of society to the lowliest massa attest to the sensitivity Cora had for making every person matter. This sensitivity grew keener and keener through the years even when her health began to fail. Cora's love for God was strengthened through her formation in Opus Dei, doing ordinary things extraordinary well, as Saint Josemaria, the founder of Opus Dei, would say. The love story of Maria Corazon Salcedo del Fierro unrolled like all love stories. It started with a child's dependent love, then it progressed to an adolescent's love of self and of friends. As time progressed, Cora's love extended to falling in love with a man with the love of the crush category. Then, she experienced real romantic love, marital love, love of family, and love for a community. These forms of love were tied together by Cora with love of God. What's different in Cora's love story is she wanted to love God perfectly, that is, heroically. When a friend thought Cora wanted to do this because she feared hell, Cora answered, No, it's not about hell. I just don't want to do anything anymore that would hurt Jesus. I want to love the way He loved us, perfectly, heroically. And so Cora did, and there are countless testimonials on this. One time, Cora, who had bad knee that hurt a lot, climbed 5 flights of stairs to bring hot soup to a sick teacher whose hospital room was on the 5th floor. Another time, Cora made the first move to make up with a person who verbally abused her in the most humiliating way, even though this person did not show any remorse. But this person eventually transformed and became Christ-centered thanks to Cora's act of forgiveness. Saint Francis of Assisi once said, Preach the gospel with your acts. This is something Maria Corazon did in life. There is another quotation I would like to use to end Maria Corazon's love story. Someone on Facebook wrote, It takes a village to raise a child, but it takes a Corazon to create the village. Maria Corazon, thank you for the village you have built for us Corpus Christians. And thank you for being a model of heroic, perfect love.